Okay, so we've got all these articles, about the election,
Hmm.
and it's really down to the wire now.
Yeah.
And honestly, things are getting kind of crazy, right?
Oh, yeah. It's
So we're going to dive into this channel's television piece
right.
that really captures this final weekend scramble, before the big day.
Right.
And what's fascinating to me is
Yeah.
beyond just who wins.
Hmm.
This election seems to be saying a lot about America right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
What do you think?
It's like this pressure cooker of anxieties and aspirations, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this article throws us right into the thick of it with this almost cinematic detail.
Okay.
Harris and Trump's planes sharing the tarmac in Charlotte.
Oh, wow.
Talk about a visual metaphor for
Yeah.
this head-to-head race.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Okay.
It's not just a cool visual, right?
Right.
What does it tell us about the state of the race itself?
Well, I think it really underscores just how tight this election is. And, the article highlights this. So it's a clear appeal to unity and a move away from the divisive politics of recent years.
Okay, but is Trump playing that same game? It seems like his rhetoric has taken an even darker turn
Yeah.
as we get closer to Election Day.
You're right. There's a definite shift in tone.
Mm-hmm.
He's painting a pretty apocalyptic picture of what a Harris presidency would look like.
Oh, wow.
Warning of economic collapse and even World War III.
That's,
It's a stark contrast to
Yeah.
Harris's message of hope and progress.
and then there's that quote from Trump about women preferring him to protect them from criminals.
Right.
Is that just playing on fear?
Hmm.
Or is he tapping into a genuine anxiety that exists for some voters?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
And it raises an interesting point
Okay.
about how both candidates are trying to energize their existing base
Uh-huh.
while also appealing to those undecided voters
Right.
in the swing states.
Yeah.
It's a delicate balancing act.
And it seems like gender is a key factor in this election. The article talks about Trump's strategic outreach to men,
Yeah.
meeting with martial artists, spending time in barbershops, connecting with crypto entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to admit that's a pretty diverse group.
It's a targeted approach for sure.
Yeah.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Okay.
we see a potential gender gap emerging in the election results.
Interesting.
The article mentions the Women's March in Washington
Uh-huh.
and quotes a 74-year-old English teacher
Wow.
who is now voting for Harris because there's too much at stake.
Right.
This suggests a strong mobilization of women voters,
Mhm.
potentially in response to issues like reproductive rights.
So we've got these big rallies and marches.
Right.
But then the article also zooms in on these individual stories,
Mm-hmm.
like that English teacher.
Yeah.
It really brings the complexity of this election to life, doesn't it?
It does, and it's a reminder
Yeah.
that ultimately elections are decided by individual voters,
Uh-huh.
making choices based on their own values and experience.
Right. But those choices are often influenced by a whole web of factors,
Yeah.
from personal anxieties
Mhm.
to broader societal trends.
Which brings us back to that central question.
Yeah.
What does this election say about the American people?
Right.
What are we seeing reflected in these campaign strategies
Right.
and this intense political climate?
It's a question that keeps coming up, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the article offers some clues. Well, one thing that jumps out to me is this undercurrent of anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned Trump's darker rhetoric,
Mm-hmm.
but the article also points to these preemptive claims of fraud,
Right.
echoing, 2020.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's setting the stage for questioning the results,
Right.
no matter what.
And what's even more unsettling?
What's that?
The article talks about businesses in Washington boarding up their storefronts
Oh, wow.
and city officials warning of a fluid, unpredictable security environment.
Really?
It feels like they're bracing for potential unrest,
Yeah.
regardless of who wins. Yeah, I see what you mean.
That's pretty intense.
It is. It's a sobering reflection of the deep divisions
Yeah.
in American society right now.
Mhm.
And it raises a question, about whether this election can actually heal those divisions
Right.
or if it's going to make them even worse.
Because if people don't trust the process,
Right.
if they don't believe the results are legitimate,
Uh-huh.
that's a recipe for chaos.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We saw that at the Capitol in 2020.
Exactly. This election isn't just about choosing a president. It's about choosing what kind of democracy we want to have.
Okay.
A democracy where we can disagree peacefully
Mhm.
and respect the outcome of a fair election.
Yeah.
Or one where those norms are constantly being challenged.
So how do the candidates fit into that picture?
Well,
It seems like they're each offering a different vision
right.
of America's future.
Yeah.
Harris is talking about unity and progress,
Mm-hmm.
while Trump is focusing on fear and division.
And those messages resonate with different segments of the population.
Okay.
Harris is appealing to those who are looking for a return to normalcy,
Right.
a break from the chaos of the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
Trump, on the other hand, is tapping into a sense of anxiety and grievance
Okay.
that's been building for a while.
And it's not just about domestic politics, right?
No, it's not.
The U.S. is a global power,
Uh-huh.
so the outcome of this election
Right.
has implications for the entire world.
Absolutely. The article doesn't go into much detail about foreign policy,
Okay.
but whoever wins is going to inherit a complex set of global challenges.
Yeah.
From climate change to international conflicts.
It's a lot.
It is, and they're going to have to navigate those challenges
Right.
while also dealing with a deeply divided nation.
Which brings us back to the listener
Yeah.
and what all of this means for them.
Exactly.
It's easy to get caught up in the horse race aspect of the election.
Right.
But we need to think about the concrete implications
Mhm.
of these different visions for America.
You're right. Let's look at some potential policy differences
Okay.
between Harris and Trump.
Okay.
For example, on healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Harris supports a move towards universal coverage,
Right.
while Trump favors a more market-based approach.
Yeah.
How might that impact you personally?
It's a big question.
It is.
And it's not just healthcare. No,
Yeah.
there are major differences on climate change, immigration, economic policy.
Right?
These are issues that affect everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And the outcome of this election could have a real impact on your life,
Exactly.
depending on where you stand.
And it's not just about the next 4 years.
Right.
It's about the direction of the country for decades to come.
Yeah, that's true.
This election is a chance for the American people to decide what kind of society they want to live in.
So as we head into these final hours before the election,
Yeah.
what are the key takeaways?
Okay.
What should the listener be paying attention to?
Well, first and foremost, this is a race that's going down to the wire. We've got two candidates with vastly different visions for America.
All right.
And the outcome is truly uncertain.
Yeah.
But beyond the immediate results,
Okay.
there are deeper questions at play.
Right. We've been talking about this anxiety and division within American society.
Exactly.
And the potential for post-election turmoil is a real concern.
Yeah.
The boarded-up storefronts,
Huh.
the security warnings,
Mm-hmm.
it all points to a sense of unease.
It's a reminder that democracy is fragile,
Yeah.
and it requires active participation, a willingness to engage in civil discourse,
Right.
and a respect for the outcome,
Mm-hmm.
even when it's not the outcome you wanted.
Okay, so we've got a tight race,
Yeah.
darkly different visions for the country,
Uh-huh.
and a real sense of uncertainty about what happens next.
Right.
A lot to take in.
It is. And that kind of brings us back to that question we keep circling around.
Yeah.
This article is focused on the candidates.
Mm-hmm.
But what does all this tell us about the American people themselves?
It's almost like these two candidates are holding up a mirror to the country.
Right.
We're seeing these deep divisions, these anxieties about the future, but also this desire for something better.
Right. And I think that's the real takeaway here.
Yeah.
This election is about so much more than just who occupies the White House for the next 4 years.
Right.
It's about the soul of America.
Mhm.
What kind of country do we want to be?
Mhm.
What are our values? What do we prioritize?
Those are big questions.
There.
And honestly, this article doesn't give us all the answers,
Right.
but it does offer some food for thought.
It does. And I think the most important thing right now
Yeah.
is to stay engaged, stay informed,
Mhm.
and stay hopeful.
Yeah.
No matter what happens in this election, the work of building a better future continues.
Well said.
Yeah.
And on that note, I think we'll leave our listener with those thoughts.
Sounds
The world is watching as America decides its future. And no matter what the outcome, it's going to be a fascinating and consequential next 4 years. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the heart of the 2024 U.S. election.